果てしない未来広がるこの空新しい自分に生まれ変わる世界中幸せの雪を降らせてみせるよ
Hello and welcome to Aniview Solo Reviews. I'm Lyzl and today I'm going to be talking about Pretear. Pretear was made by Helm Filmmaker in 2001. It's 13 episodes long and it's a magical girl romance series. It follows Himeno Awayuki, who has just entered a difficult transition period in her life. Her father has just remarried, and she now has two stepsisters to deal with. Things get even more hectic when she learns that she is the newest Pretear, guardian of the world. Initially reluctant, the 7 Lyzl Knights, her guardians and partners as Pretear, convince her of the need to battle. Princess of Disaster has awakened, and she is stealing the world's Lyzl, the living essence of all things. With family troubles, budding romances, and the new heavy burden of saving the world, can this novice Pretear gain the strength she needs to overcome all obstacles and defeat the Princess of Disaster? Personally, I found Pretear to be a mildly refreshing take on the magical girl genre. It breaks a few boundaries and manages to stand out as a decent series. I do think it really needed to push itself more though if it wanted to become a great series. Now let's talk a little bit about Pretear's animation. At this point, it's definitely showing its date. However, it still manages to pull off some colorful character designs and enough crazy costumes to even make Lady Gaga jealous. The fuzzy quality and choppy battle scenes did detract from the overall experience, and they also made use of a few repeated scenes which I found quite annoying. Regardless, it's watchable even if you're not going to get a strong action fix out of it. Although seriously, if you're picking up Pretear for a desperation shonen action title, you're probably barking up the wrong tree. Pretear's opening starts off the series strong, if a little typical. A stirring and emotional song with a bubbly and sweet feel to it, along with a bit of thrill added as a glimpse to the action ahead. As for its ending though, it doesn't fare nearly as well, with an annoying voice accompanied by an even more annoying beat. As for the series' soundtrack itself, it's your usual mix of typical instrumentals during everyday scenes. It's bubbly and fun, and appropriate for the series. It uses quite a variety of tracks for different moods, characters, and scenes, and while I didn't grow attached to any specific songs, ones like the Darkness Approaching theme song or the Transformation Sequence track always got me into the right mood for the moment. Overall, it's a well done but not entirely memorable soundtrack. Pretear follows many of the typical magical girl trends. A girl with magical powers, stopping an evil force bent on destroying the world with some pretty guys sprinkled throughout. However, it does have some distinct differences that makes it a bit above the curve. So yes, Pretear does start you off with 7 good-looking guys just to get those fangirls hooked, but quickly shows its first dose of innovation with a main character who actually spends some time thinking about what this means to her life and how she should deal with it. She realizes the daunting responsibility she bears and decides to take it seriously by training and learning to cooperate with these Lyzl Knights. This is a big contrast to other magical girls series such as Cardcaptor Sakura and Sailor Moon, where they easily accept their position with no need for training, although Sakura does develop her powers over time. They also took some time to explain how they get away unnoticed with their insanely flashy fight scenes. It turns out they actually move into another dimension for these fight scenes so no one else in the real world notices them. I found this pretty cool because it actually showed that they're trying to put some realism in this series, even if most of it doesn't make a lot of sense. Little things like this that occur throughout the series does give it a more realistic atmosphere, although most of the usual shallowness of magical girl series is still around, so be warned. The monster of the day attitude that's present in most magical girl series is still present here, although this one does have a few good continuous stories, such as Mawata, one of Himeno's stepsisters' depression and her infatuation with one of the Lyzl Knights, creating the groundwork for a very solid ending. It has to be said though, that an unfortunate lack of real deviation from this typical magical girl style does deter Pretear from greatness, and I was disappointed that it never really shocked me. That is, until the ending. While I wouldn't say it's phenomenally innovative, it is a quite strong, emotional, and moving ending. I personally broke down, just a little, and felt it was worth watching just for that last episode. So if you can get through the somewhat bland beginning episodes, it's definitely worth the wait to check out this great and moving ending to the series. Alright, now we'll get into the final bit, the characters of Pretear. Himeno, aka the Pretear, presents a typical, yet a little more serious magical girl lead. She realizes the gravity of her situation and takes a hold of her destiny, rather than just letting it blindly follow her like it's the natural way of things. In the end, though, she does share a lot of the traits of most magical girls. She will never turn her back on a friend. She's always there to defend. She's the one on whom you can depend. You get the gist of it. She does manage to develop a bit over the series, but just a bit, so don't expect too much out of her. Now, of the 7 Lyzl Knights, only 2 really take on major roles throughout the series, and the others only have brief moments to shine. Sasame, the Lyzl Knight of Sound, is the first major one, and he hosts a radio show which Mawata listens to religiously. He is the calm and distant one of the group, but is overall left at that, so even though he's a main character, all of them don't really get much development and mostly just portray their stereotypical role as their element. The other major one, Hayate, the Lyzl Knight of Wind, becomes Himeno's love interest throughout the series and is the most moody of them, getting frustrated with the situation and how the Princess of Disaster is taking over the world. He is pivotal later on in the series for those reasons. I could have used more interesting characters for the Lyzl Knights though, as they just felt shallow overall even for these main ones. Now on to Himeno's stepsisters, the first of which is Mayune, who is a flamboyantly egotistical and vain rich girl, typical of the stepsister role. She provides the majority of the comic relief of the series, which some may enjoy, but I didn't find her that interesting for the most part, although her interactions with her butler were kind of entertaining. It's the other stepsister, Mawata, that's important though, as her depression leads to desperation from her loneliness, and provides a key element later on in the plot. While still fairly shallow overall, she does have a true story to her, and her development is what kept the plot stirring throughout the series. The final character that needs to be mentioned is the Princess of Disaster herself, Fenrir. And while she is portrayed stereotypically evil, her character is thankfully deepened with a strong backstory that explains her situation very well, and in a truly interesting manner. I really enjoyed the intertwining of all these characters by the end of the series, and it made for a pretty good cast overall. Alright, so let's get right down to it. I'm going to give Pretear 3.5 out of 5 stars. I think this series is really worth the watch, but only if you're looking for a great ending, because most of the series beginning is fairly bland and generic, and even if it is breaking a bit of the boundaries of what magical girls typically do, it doesn't really have that fun factor, that interest, that innovation that makes it an interesting series until the end, where it actually provides something great. So, if you have any questions, comments, or requests for Aniview, you can send them to aniview@hotmail.com or send us a comment on our YouTube page. We also have a website, aniviewreviews.com, where you can check out our huge archive of previous reviews. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.